crowd has called him a generational talent, and it sounds like dude believes it. And belief is half the battle. You don't believe in yourself, why should anybody else?
Yeah.
And clearly, one Nico Collins, Texans wide receiver, recently paid. Got a 4-year, $72 million extension, something like $50 million guaranteed, freshly paid.
Freshly paid.
Doing well, talking to the media. And he says he's got goals, Lopez.
Yeah.
You think that Stephon Diggs is the number one wide receiver on this team?
I do.
I agree with you. I think that's mostly based off of what he has done, and what's going to happen in the future, obviously, has not happened yet. So we'll see how it goes down. But they got 3 guys that have potential to go for well over 1,000 yards between Stephon Diggs, Nico Collins, and Tank Dell. But what's Nico Collins' goal? And we've heard a little bit from Tank Dell earlier in the offseason, and now Nico Collins, man, he's chasing the greats. He believes in what C.J. Stroud says about him, being a generational talent, because what is Nico Collins trying to do? He's trying to chase the greats like Julio Jones, like Megatron, like Larry Fitzgerald. These are the guys.
Hey man, tap the brakes on that, man.
These are the guys that Nico Collins patents his game after. These are the guys that he sees himself as. What say you, Lopez? Can Nico Collins go for 1,500 receiving yards the way his heart desires? Clearly, as he spoke to DJ Bieniemy. How much of a believer are you, sir?
So that's what he's saying.
That's his goal. That's his personal goal this year. I think earlier in the offseason we heard Tank say it was around 1,300.
Yeah.
That would obviously be an improvement because he only played 8, however many games it was because of the injury.
Yeah.
But Nico Collins had a big year. Something like 13, closer to 1,300.
Yeah.
And wants to get 1,500 this time. They've added Stephon Diggs. Tank Dell, you're anticipating is going to be healthy. But Nico Collins, like I said, freshly paid and freshly hyped as a generational talent by his own teammate and quarterback C.J. Stroud.
Yeah.
Believing in himself, and he's got high hopes.
All right, couple questions. First on your point, can he get to 1,500 yards? Sure. I mean, go for it, man.
Oh, come on, man. No, I sense sarcasm.
No.
I sense your sarcasm, sure.
No, it's not sarcasm.
Okay.
I'm gonna back it up with a question.
Sure, you could be a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
As long as you apply yourself.
Yeah.
Just like Grandma used to say.
Exactly.
Just make a dream and pursue that dream. No, I'm not being facetious. I'm really not. If he goes for 1,500 yards, it's on the table for a guy like that if he stays healthy and continues to improve. 3 dudes had 1,500 yards last year. And that was Amon-Ra St. Brown, CeeDee Lamb, and Tyreek Hill. That's some lofty company. But they did do it. As a number 1 wide receiver, you can do it. Here's my question, because my answer is no. Even if he has that kind of year and becomes, just next level type of receiver, do you want him to have 1,500 yards with the other 2 dudes?
I like this question.
Right?
No.
I don't.
Because the answer is no.
Yes.
I like the question because the answer is no.
I'd love for him to have 1,000, 1,100, and then another dude with 1,000 or 1,100, and maybe another dude with 900, over him having 1,500, because that's going to directly eat into how they're spreading the ball with their wide receivers.
Yeah, Nico Collins is without question, I think, capable of achieving that. I think what we saw last year was kind of like an indicator of what Nico Collins could be. And I think that's also why they paid him, because we talked about this, man, 1 year. I mean, really one elite year, and you pay him that kind of money.
Yeah.
Well, it's based off of the 1 year that you've seen, but the belief that he can replicate that and maybe even perhaps be better.
Right.
So I think it's totally in play in that, like, individually, if you just take each one of these guys in a vacuum, Nico Collins, Tank Dell, and Stephon Diggs. Maybe Tank Dell to a lesser degree because you have seen lesser of it, right? Yeah. But all of them, if you're just going off of potential, you could say, yeah, any one of those guys.
Hey, could Stephon go for 1,500? Sure.
Why not?
I don't want him to.
But why would you want him to?
Yeah.
And that's where I'm at, is kind of like having the caution.
Yeah.
Like I like the confidence. I like the swagger. I like the fact that they're kind of stepping out there. They got the chest out there. I appreciate that. I want the team to have that kind of confidence, to not back away from the challenge or from the hype or from the expectation, or to even have a loftier expectation of themselves. I can appreciate that. But I do want to pump the brakes
I
a
do
little
too.
bit.
And-
I want
and
to pump the brakes a little bit, Lopez, because to your point, this spreading the ball around thing, I think
that's how they're good.
That's how they're good.
Yeah.
It's important that they do that. That's how they're good. CJ is wired that way, and to have that many, an abundance of weapons, that makes that even better.
Because if he gets 1,500 yards, that probably means that one of the other receivers is either not productive, heaven forbid, injured, or ticked off. Like because if he has 1,500 yards, that means either Stephon Diggs and or Tank Dell are not doing what we thought they would do.
Yeah, something went wrong.
Or one of them is ticked off because they're not getting the ball enough, or one of them is injured. Like all three options of him getting 1,500 yards are not good for the team.
Yeah.
And so that's why I would settle for 1,150, man. And then Stephon goes for 1,200 and Tank goes for 900. That's a great team.
It also makes you wonder if they're going to be running the ball well. Like, and that to me is a lesser, a kind of a backseat issue. Because if they're throwing the ball across the yard and these guys are all going for 1,000, 1,100 plus, and one of them's got 1,500, and the passing offense is prolific and they're scoring points and they're winning games, I don't think I'm going to complain as much about the run game, but I do feel like those things could end up being related if one guy's getting 1,500 yards or say another guy's not healthy, and all of a sudden that position group doesn't look as strong and as deep as it did in the offseason.
I mean, you've got tight ends to feed. You've got mixing out of the backfield to feed. You got other receivers in four wide sets that you got to feed. If he gets 1,500 yards, I mean, hey, welcome to the All-Pro Club. But how good is this squad? How good is this offense? Because they can't all have 1,500 yards. I mean, that's 4,500 yards right there from three dudes. And a lot of quarterbacks don't throw for 4,500 yards.
I like something that Seth said this morning. I was listening in, and he mentioned, I would prefer that they have different and maybe more specific goals of things that they can actually control. Because, like, Tank's goal was something like 100 catches and 10 touchdowns and 1,300, something like that.
Yeah.
But those are things that he's not really in charge of and can't really control. He needs to obviously he has to be open. CJ has to see him. It has to be a part. Like, it has to all work, right?
Yeah.
You can't throw the ball to yourself. But things that you can control that Seth mentioned were like, hey, how about I want to have this many broken tackles? I want to have this many yards after the catch. And especially for a guy like Nico, really all of them to a degree.
Yeah.
But Nico with that size and that big play ability.
Down the middle.
I would much prefer that be more like what his goals are than, say, just like a cumulative number of receiving yards.
How about I want to start and finish at least 15 games? Guys are going to get nicked up.
I want a second straight healthy season.
Yes.
Yeah.
I want to start and finish at least 15, 16 games. If you do that, you're going to have 1,200 yards or 1,100 or whatever.
I could appreciate that. Another thing that stood out to me about this whole Nico Collins wanting to get 1,500 receiving yards is this juxtaposition to the way the defense talks and operates, and really more so DeMeco and that whole like Alabama background of the rat poison and not eating the cheese and all of that. We've got two different, I wouldn't say conflicting, but they are different philosophies in terms of how we talk about ourselves and view ourselves and behave publicly, or just present publicly. Not behave, but present publicly, I should say. And it seems like the defense, guys like Christian Harris, guys like DeMeco Ryans are kind of like, don't eat the rat poison, don't eat the cheese. We're not worried about of course, Nick Caserio.
Of course.
We don't want to focus too much on what the outside noise is. But I don't really want to hear that anymore now, because you got two high-profile players, one a young guy who hasn't been paid yet, but a young, exciting player in Tank Dell.
Yeah.
And another one who you have now invested in and is, I won't say a household name, but
here he is.
A household name here, and just flat out a lot more famous than he used to be in Nico Collins.
Yeah.
Two guys now high-profile going out there and publicly stating what their individual goals are.
I do like
team.
it. Don't get me wrong.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. I love the attitude. I love what it represents.
Yeah.
I feel like I want to hear less of the cliche, hey, we're just going to keep our heads down and we're not worried about the outside noise, or we're not worried about these specific things. No, maybe not the outside noise, but it's internal. It's also internal where the hype is, where the expectation is, and the way that you're viewing yourselves and what you're saying about yourselves. That's internal. We know it because you got guys that are coming out here and saying it.
Yeah, and I think it also trickles down from their quarterback. Like their quarterback has been famously kind of cocky, this offseason.
Yeah.
I think it's just trickling down.
Yeah, I didn't even mention CJ.
They're taking cues.
I didn't even mention CJ.
Yeah, they're taking cues.
Yeah, I'm totally with it.